that. And you kind of didn't want to pick up a squishy hero because even though you've got the Arden there, not as so much support, but another damage dealer, Arden would still be able to use the Vanguard, and you wouldn't want it wasted on, say, another hero when you've got multiple targets that might need it. I think Gwen on her own should be able to get out of most situations with Skedaddle. And for Samuel, he's able to kite around a lot. It really depends where's Drifting Dark's going and how much he focuses on, do I want to stay in this Drifting Dark or am I going to disengage in case it goes into a bad position for them. But overall, I like the Ace Gaming draft here. They've got a lot of sustain, and they've got enough CC there that they could set up some decent combos. But you look over to the side of Renegades, and that's definitely not a bad comp either with the Grumpjaw pickup. I think it was a shame they were denied for Gwen, but very smart drafting from Ace Gaming there to do so.
Yeah, I think that it could be a Grumpjaw captain and a weapon Grace in the lane. It really don't know what they're going to go for, and it's so different. Obviously, Arden could go into the lane from Renegades. We just have to wait and see what heroes these players are comfortable on, and that's really going to decide where they're going to go. Whether lane rhyme is something they've practiced or not is going to depend on which lane it goes into. But yeah, I agree. I think Renegades have got a really strong draft, mainly because they just have that damage a bit earlier on. The Gwen and the Samuel have a much earlier power spike than the Idris and the Celeste. Celeste has to wait till level 8. Idris has to wait till he gets his Shatter Glass or Dragon's Eye or something like that. And so I think that Renegades have the ability to get an early snowball, get some crystal power buffs early on, get some jungle. And then once you start the snowball, these pro teams will be able to continue it, and Renegades are going to have a tough problem getting to their power spikes.
Yeah, the good thing is if Renegades can get on top, they'll be able to really help that Celeste out in mid lane. Or, well, we don't know if it's going to be specifically mid lane yet, but as imagined, the Celeste either way making their way into the late game would be good. Cruel, I think Cruel is going to be one of those early kind of threats roaming around looking for possible gank opportunities. I wouldn't be surprised if Shiver Steel is first or second item pick on the Cruel.
Yeah, I personally prefer to go Tension Bow into Breaking Point on Tier 3 Journey Boots as a priority after that, and then defense. But Shiver Steel can work extremely well. You get that attack speed, you get the guaranteed slow, even if you don't have a weapon power buff camp. But I think given the fact that Shiver Steel's kind of been replaced by that weapon buff, because it gives you virtually the same rewards minus a little bit of attack speed and the health. And so Cruel will almost always be getting that weapon buff, so he doesn't need the Shiver Steel. But even so, it can work extremely well. You can slow multiple targets if you manage to target focus at the right time. And it is going to be interesting what everyone's going to build. Definitely looking forward to seeing that during the game.
Minnie, you say he doesn't need it, but if you want to tilt the enemy, you need it. Trust me, okay. I've experienced it. I do not play Cruel myself, but I've been on the receiving end of it, and it's not a fun journey. I'll tell you that, especially if they're going to pair it up with a Grumpjaw who's already going to be able to slow you down if he's able to land a Grumpy onto you. And then when it gets to level 6, I can imagine some horrific combos coming out with the stuffed. And then as long as you've got the team communication there, you should be able to either throw him back into a core collapse or into even a from house hot. You could swing that way back, getting ready for him to pop out. But we'll have to see, as you said, just on what they build, what their strategies are. But Renegades so far in their performance have been a very well thought out, methodical team and able to control the game the way they want.
Yeah, they have. And now we are loading into Sovereign's Rise for the first game. So we're going to hand it over to our casters. And it is yourself, our quest Jewel, and we're bringing in Luxuria.
Hello. And yes, we took a break, from the show matches. And then we are back now. And of course, like the Des actually mentioned earlier on, Renegades, they are playing not on their home servers, they're playing on the EA server, so they might experience, some lag here and there, as with when, the EA teams come over to actually play on our servers. But now we have an early team fight. Shana just getting forced out of his own jungle. And also, we are told to say this, but Renegades Tesseract will be playing on the IGN Mantuni, and then you have Aeon 222 playing on C9 Best Chuck, and
I was wondering who that was, so thank you for clearing that up to me. I was kind of just trying to add 1 and 2 together, seeing who's missing. But you see an early engage coming from Ace, or early invade, I should say, into the enemy jungle. They did manage to steal away the red buff, I believe, and they're going to be able to back out there. Clearly, they weren't successfully able to steal away that gold oak, but as you said, well, it's the early game. We'll quickly go over who's on who, but Chingy right now getting onto Shana. It might be early first blood going down, and it is. They get the smite off, and Dark Lawn might be next if he's not careful. He is on that Churn Walker, is going to be able to sustain slightly in this early game and back out. Tasa probably not going to get caught up here because Renegade's not really roaming too far into the jungle, just making their way down to the bot lane. But as I mentioned, we do have Moon Tui on Idris, Spaghetti EA over on that Celestis, expected Chingy over onto Cruel, Best Chuck and A on I probably should say Best Chuck and A on over on the Grubjaw, and SNK on the Grace. Looking over to the other team, Sweetbox going to pick up that Arden. We see Darklon on the... Well, now seeing that Sweetbox, I have to mention this, seeing that Sweetbox picked up the Arden, we might see Darklon... Oh no, Darklon I believe is the support. So Darklon on the Churn Walker, Rhyme on Tessa on Rhyme, I should say. Creation playing with that Gwen, and Shana on the Samuel. But I'd like to just get your thoughts on this draft, as I did talk through it with Mini Mitre, but how did you see this?
Well, initially, if you'd ask me, initially I thought the Grumjaw would be basically Renegades conforming to the EA meta, going for that Storm Crown into Shiver Steel, very utility-based Grumjaw, but doesn't seem like the case. We have Aeon222, or rather Best Shark NA, going on to the weapon path, maybe for the early clear, who knows? And of course, you know, with the weapon blade, you can buy down the Book of Eulogies that helps with the early sustain as well. But draft-wise, I think, you know, both sides have got their pros and cons. Like Mini Mitre actually mentioned, Idris have got a slower power spike compared to the rest of the other heroes in the side of Ace Gaming. So it's just down to how they can position well in the earlier team fights going up against Ace Gaming. But we do see now Renegade's actually doing very well for himself, securing their own farm and picking up first blood.
Yep, and we see a lot of pressure being put down on this bot lane. Sweetbox, the only one there. It is Ace's top lane in regards to that, but it's not a bad idea to put Sweetbox there on the Arden. I mean, you want a tanky top laner because most of the time your top laner has to end up going against 2 of the enemy team. But you look at that and you can look up to the top lane for the side of Renegades, where they do have the Cruel up there for now. Not the Cruel, the Grumpjaw up there, which we were considering whether it's going to be the Grumpjaw or the Cruel in the lane. Minimai did mention that Grumpjaw would be the better pick as he has a good engage, and I think it also makes sense putting Cruel as the jungler. You see Chingy just getting the Shadow Empowers Me passive perk up here, and then engaging, able to trade off a bit of damage, but needs to be careful with Sweetbox. Making the rotation up early might be able to catch out Chingy and claim that red buff for their own, but Chingy going to use that use the potion in time. They're able to escape out there, and SNK going in for the engage, lands the Holy Nova, and it looks like, for now, Spaghetti actually having to be quite careful of the poke coming through from Ace, and Ace going to make a quick rotation up to the Crystal Tree, and whether they can get is the question. It looks like they did, and there's going to be a full engagement going through. Chingy going low, there's Holy Nova and the Core Collapse stunning up Tasa, but they need to back out of this fight. SNK going low themselves, and Spaghetti almost taken down as Gwen joining in on the fight, and Grumpjaw having a look at it, but probably not the best idea to rotate down now. Not too much you can do. Spaghetti and SNK just need to hold it out in this mid lane.
Yep, very good rotation coming up from Ace Gaming there, but
the collapse, and it's going to be SNK going in. They don't get anything for it. They are going to back, but you see once again, I think overall on the board that you put the SNK, this Grace, over in the mid lane to support Spaghetti. It's what we talked about in the earlier draft. You really just need to get Spaghetti to that level 8, get them to that mid to late game, and then they can be a powerhouse on their own.
Well, that is definitely true, and Grumjaw actually going for the attention bow means that he has got an early game spike, but because of how he's being pressured in this top lane of his, it is just impossible, close to impossible rather, for Aeon 222 to actually get down to help in that particular team fight we saw earlier on. And it was a very good rotation coming out, and we do see now Renegades trying to go for the 6-minute Ghost Wing. Tasa trying to stop them. Let's see if Rhyme can do anything with everyone converging.
Yep, and there's going to be a big team fight breaking out. SNK going to be the first target, but they managed to burst down Spaghetti fairly quick enough. Tasa really putting in work on this Rhyme with the Winter Spires, picks up another kill. Meanwhile, Samuel able to take down the Cruel, and it looks like, if I'm not wrong, Tesseract going to get caught out here on the Idris, and all of a sudden, Ace clean up, and such a big invested fight for Renegades is really going to fall apart for them as they lose the fight, they lose the mid turret, and that's going to be the gold swing going over to Ace as they are now 22k to 20k. But Best Chuck not going to go down without losing anything. They're going to have a trade without gaining anything for themselves, I should say. They are going to make a trade for the top lane turret. So this is what I mean when I see that Renegades definitely have the experience and the knowledge to go up against Ace Gaming, that they really understand how to play the 5v5. And you see in the bot lane, SNK and Aeon might be able to catch out Sweetbox, but he does get out there with the South Vanguard. And so in the end, Ace actually winning out with 2 turrets, but Renegades didn't get nothing out of it, at least.
Yep, very good rotation, or rather very good objective control coming up from Ace Gaming right there. We had Aeon 222 securing the top tower, but then Ace not want to let it get waste rather, and then went on to take the bottom one away from Renegade. So, you know, overall, we do know for a fact that Renegades and Ace Gaming, Rocks included, they scream a lot together. So, you know, Renegades kind of, a lot of their rotations, I had a short interview, with the players earlier on that they say EA's rotation is just much cleaner, and we can see it from the game. It is definitely much, much cleaner. They know what to do, but I do not count the side of Renegades out just yet.
Yeah, well, you can see here pressure going up in the top lane, and there's also a mid lane fight breaking through. Solar Storm not able to finish off Sweetbox, but he will be able to back out there. Shana just keeping the front lines on steady there with the Drifting Dark, making sure no one pushes on through. They do have Spaghetti, Chingy, and SNK on the other side of that, but going back to your previous statement, I totally agree. It just seems like that Ace Gaming are one step ahead of Renegades, where usually we're so used to seeing Renegades always being that team that's a step ahead. But you saw that even though they lost the bot turret, they were able to trade out the bot turret, but after they got their own bot turret, Ace Gaming were like, no, we'll go and take your top. So the next piece of the puzzle here would be if Renegades could take the mid away, but we'll have to see if they're even able to do so, as it looks like Tesseract and SNK gonna get caught out. Holy Divine Intervention coming through onto Aeon though, and there's gonna be knock up, gets blocked out. Chingy looking to join in on the fight, but not sure if he can make it. Impact it. It's gonna jump onto Tasa, maybe the tankier target, not the best one to go for. Dark Alarm will be the better, and Tasa will go down eventually. And they're able to turn this fight around. There's going to be the triple kill coming out from the Idris. And just to mention, that's the CP Idris, definitely a good pocket pick in this meta. And very just, you don't see him as much of a threat, but CP Idris really actually quite a strong pick.
He is definitely a very strong pick, but we don't see him very, very often. But now we do see Renegades going for Ghost Wing once again. They successfully actually capture that, and they will be turning attention down to Bo.
Womboed. That is the stuff, and I mentioned the they have to them, the only hero without CC on the team of Renegades would be that of Aeon on the Idris, but we will see them now trading out that mid turret. They're looking for the opportunity, but they're going in deep instead, and they do lose. Oh, they trade out the Grace for the Arden, and there's going to be the Trespass used from Darklon trying to back out of the fight. Core Collapse not going to stun up anyone just yet, but we do see Spaghetti now with that level 8 able to poke from afar and be a real backline menace in these team fights. They need to be careful not to get caught out here, as they are left on their own while the rest of Renegades made that rotation down to the bot lane.
Those Hero Genesis poke coming up from Spaghetti is just too much for Ace to take it. I mean, we saw it was just a supernova and boom, picks up one, picks up second one as well. let's see what actually Ace Gaming can do at this point in time. We do see Creation inching closer towards the Tension Bow, although in Southeast Asia we saw a lot Gwen prioritize Tension Bow first item. Oh, Sweet Box.
Sweet Box getting dived on there, gets taken out. The Shimmer Strike going to be the one to do it. And now Shana just trying to poke from afar. Chingy going to dive out of that bush right onto Shana, but doesn't actually catch them out. Meanwhile, up in the top lane, Creation gets caught out between what is... it's so hard to remember reading the username Best Chuck, but Grumpjaw and the Celeste, and fight breaks down. There's going to be Chingy falling. SNK, the last one standing for that team, not going to be able to put down any damage themselves. So although we saw Renegades win it out in the top lane and Ace win it in the bot, I think Renegades won a bit more there as they're able to get a tier 2 turret for it. Doesn't look like Aeon will be able to escape from this fight, however. Oh, he might just do so. Sweetbox has an aftershock, but this was the thing I was looking at with that build. Ooh, some good damage coming through there. And I was about to question it, that Sweetbox did go for the Storm Crown earlier, and it looked like they're going for more taking down objectives, which I believe is completely the right idea in 5v5, and I have no objections against that pickup.
Yep, Arden's build definitely good. I mean, I've seen CP, a couple of CP Ardens running here and there in my 5v5 play, usually on my team. Usually it's my teammate that wants to run the CP Arden, and you know, he'll go for that Shatter Glass or Aftershock first item and then go into utility. It works pretty well. So I'm hoping Sweetbox would actually go for that CP Arden rather than, you know, going for that on-hit Arden. But that's most likely the case. I mean, you deal the most damage with your Blood for Blood after all. And another team fight will be breaking out.
East Asia invading into Renegade's jungle, and that will be the Celeste gone straight away. This could be a fight for Ace. We'll see how it goes. There's Chingy trying to dive onto Dark Long, gets knocked up by the Holy Nova, and SNK all of a sudden left on their own. Idris not really able to do too much, and you could see the rotations coming out from the East Asia team there. Ace Gaming, they rotated a bit mid, made sure their waves were pushed, and then they knew they had an opportunity to just go into the enemy jungle, and from the back of that, they know they're able to take this Ghost Swing. There's going to be Sweetbox just for good measure, making sure that no one is going to catch them out there, and it looks like Churnwalker will be able to secure that for their team. There's going to be the jump over the wall, the double kill, the Gauntlet did do some good work there in locking them down, and this is a bit of a bad position now, down for 20 more seconds. They could make the rotation down to bot here, keep a pressure on, but right now there's just a buff for the next fight. They have Ghost Wing. Black Claw isn't up just yet, not for another minute, I believe, and they're going to have to just look for the right engagement, and Renegades even more so are going to have to be more careful about their own engagements and not getting caught out even in their own jungle like that.
But I mean, even just looking at the gold, although the side of Ace Gaming have got a clear lead in terms of kill, but looking at gold, it's just shy 1,000 lead for the side of Ace Gaming. So the side of Renegades not totally out of the game yet, as long as they continue catching Ace Gaming out, putting themselves in a more faithful matchup as compared to, you know, that earlier team fight, then they will definitely stand a chance. Will still stand a chance. As for Ace Gaming, there's something that actually piqued my curiosity, because as I was interviewing the players from Renegades earlier on, they told me that, you know, EA teams, or rather, you know, the side of Ace Gaming, they enjoy the early game invades before the 6th-minute mark, and it just put so much pressure because they can count the timings and what have you not, but we haven't quite seen it from Ace this game. So let's just see what they can actually bring out for the late game. They are probably playing for it after all.
Yeah, and you can see the pressure going down on mid, the siege potential. They managed to take that tier 2 away just from the poke alone they had, but Darklon taking all the damage in the front line. Needs to be careful. That's a great Gauntlet. Catches out Chingy. Might be enough to kill them, and there's going to be the sleep coming through. They dive onto SNK. Meanwhile, Chingy does fall, and they're going to just keep on pushing through with this Dark. Oh, there's going to be the whole Heliogenesis coming through and managing to pick up some kills on the backline. Meanwhile, Grumpjaw diving in there, and you could also see Idris, but he goes a bit too deep, not able to catch out Sweetbox. The double kill coming through for Samuel, and all of a sudden, SNK, the last one left standing for his team. Chingy up in another 9 seconds, but they'll definitely be able to take the mid tier 3 from this. And Renegades just, it is such messy engagements going on there. I must feel that the players, it's so hard to get onto the right targets, and the AoE, the CC, you can see the gauntlet multiple times, really separating the team of Renegades and stunning them out, opening up opportunities for heroes like Varime to get onto them, for Churnwalker to get those hook and chains off, and just for Samuel and Gwen to lay down the poke.
Yep, I do really like the team comp coming out from Renegades. You have, Spaghetti on that Celeste that, basically can poke from afar. Issue with that, it's when they are just in a cluster, it works so well for Shanna on that Samuel, in the Drifting Dark or Melis and Verdict, it hurts, and it hurts. It hits like a truck. And on top of that as well, it's just so much sustain coming out from Samuel. It was just Shanna, basically Shanna on that Samuel in the earlier team fight was just so difficult for the side of Renegades to deal with, especially if they have to attend to Tarsa as well on that Rhyme. Just a very good front line for the side of Renegades. Just looking over at Renegades build, you see Aeon 222, or rather C9 Best Chuck NA going for the bursty Grumpjaw build. That is fine if you have a very solid front line. But looking across the scoreboard, you have generally everyone going for damage. As for Ace Creation, they have very solid front line.
There's going to be Renegades trying to take the Ghost Wing for themselves. They managed to collect it, but they're going to go off the team fight into the back of it. Creation already low from Best Chuck's engagement and that Solar Storm that came through. But Gauntlet once again doing work. They're able to clean up on the Grumpjaw. Holy Nova trying to knock up the front line of Ace Gaming, but it will not stop them. They are on a rampage. Gwen going to pick up the Cruel. Samuel picks up the Grace, and Spaghetti left all alone. Celeste not able to do anything to escape, and you just see these tight cornered situations where Ace just focused so much pressure. And you mentioned it before that Shanna on this Samuel able to do so much work, so much pressure, but I think it just plays into that whole team comp where you see that the Rhyme obviously favors getting the Winter Spires onto everyone, then he can stun them up with or root them with Chilled Winds, and it also provides big room for the Valkyrie to land in. And a lot of the time we see that, I mentioned Sweetbox, you have to worry about him, even though it be an on-hit Arden, it's still got that really supportive capability to the team with the CC available there, especially with the Gauntlet.
Yep, oh, that's not coming out.
Going to steal, however. And now we see, looking at the gold lead, you did mention Renegades, you have to give it to them. They've done a good job at keeping up. They haven't let it slip too far away. Same 57.7k gold over to 61.7. So not too far behind, but with Black Claw now pushing down onto their armory, it could mean more than gold. If they lose that armory, it's just the pressure you end up with in the mid lane that is so hard to deal with. But we'll have to see how they defend this one. It looks like, I can't even tell. Chingy going in deep, gets bursted down instantly. Gauntlet once again separate the team of Renegades, pushing them back, and Sweetbox just diving in deep. No one to even contest him. He's so tanky, but the Solar Storm going to come out in response. SNK trying to do something. They are going to get taken down, and now we see Grumpjaw diving onto the back line, able to pick up one kill, goes for the double, but no, not able to get it. Ace, get the ace, and that's going to be Black Claw still pushing on through, and it's 3 members left standing for Ace Gaming. They are going to take the win of the first match, playing on their home server EA, and GG, well played to these teams here. And Renegades really put up a decent fight, but when it comes down to draft, I think Ace Gaming draft rotation one step ahead.
Well, All Clear Enemies definitely living up to their team name. They played very, very well. There were some rotations that I was expecting in the early parts, but they did not show up. Instead, they were playing for the late game, and they did actually just come out on top. I mean, just look over at Sweetbox. He went for a very tanky build with a Storm Crown into Shiver Steel Aftershock as well. And of course, you have Dark Lawn, as you mentioned. They were just all tanking up for Creation and Shanna. So let's just see what you and Midnighter have to say, because take it away.
Thank you, Luxuria and IroQuest for casting that match. It was taken in the end by Ace Gaming, but they were playing on EA, so they had a slight advantage in terms of MS, but it was a really lovely game to watch. I loved how Renegades were just taking those dragons. As soon as Ghostwing spawned, they were looking to try and rotate towards it as 5. They did that extremely well, got the first dragon, got the second one as well, and they managed to trade turrets very, very nicely. So after the Ghostwing fight that they lost, They then lost the bot turret, traded for a top, lost the mid, traded for the bot, and then they lost the top. So in the end, they were one turret down, but they spent a lot of time just trying to make sure that they pushed the waves at the right time, got the turrets in exchange, and there were some lovely plays from Tesseract on that Idris in the bot lane.
Yeah, although Renegades being one turret down or one objective behind over time, they did manage to keep up. They didn't let it slip into anything too drastic. It was simply that at that stage of the game, at the end there, where they managed to get Ghostwing for themselves. But the question is, we've talked about this before, even though you get Ghostwing right away, it doesn't necessarily mean, okay, we got it, but the enemy's right next to us. Let's engage, let's fight. Sometimes it's better off that you got that buff. Now, if you can disengage safely, then you're actually able to then reposition yourself in a more advantageous position for the next fight and go in there with a buff as long as you do it within the time that it is up. And you could see that it was kind of Renegades game pushed back there. They never really had any engaging force of their own because Ace Gaming just trumped that with their own really tanky frontline. You could always see Sweetbox on the Arden being up front, not really minding the damage they're taking, still well being able to deal damage and tank up their own. And even with, you would say, the Churnwalker, it's built into their kit. They're able to sustain, but more of their team does damage as long as they have a hook and chainsaw. So I just overall really liked the Ace Gaming draft that came through there. At first, I was a bit questionable to the Arden pickup. Having the Arden and Churnwalker on the same team, I mean, was considered to both be supports, but you saw how much of a key factor that Gauntlet played in a lot of those team fights.
Yeah, the Gauntlets were really good getting the stuns. With an Aftershock, it has a little bit of damage. Then you Blood for Blood with a massive range and 9 range when it's over. And that was a lot of damage. I think one thing, as you said, is if you try and sneak a Ghostwing, so if you kill 3 of them or get some turrets and force them to back, then go for Ghostwing, it's fine, you're going to get it for free. But if you try and sneak it when all 5 of your enemies are alive, the best play for them is to fight you immediately before you can get any barrier, any health regeneration, because you're going to get low from taking Ghostwing. It does a lot of damage to the dragon. So then they fought them immediately, and Ace won every fight after Renegades tried to sneak a Ghostwing, because even though Renegades got the gold lead and they would have got a barrier if they'd have waited, Ace gave them no chance to regen. They were forced to fight at around half health. Then it's going to be a pretty simple win. But yeah, late game, it was just that Samuel had so much damage and so much AoE that the Celeste and the CP just couldn't contend with. In the very final team fight, Cruel went in by himself a little bit, but in the fights before that, it was very even, very well played from both teams. The Rhyme did a really good job at countering the engage of the Cruel and the Grumpjaw, and from the back line, it was Samuel was just out-poking the Celeste and the Idris. So a good draft from Renegades, and they played it really well.
Yeah, and a point that Luxury touched on there was that the Grumpjaw went for more of a bursty build, which in this situation didn't really favor the team comp overall. Although it might be a good build for Grumpjaw to go in that situation, it just didn't work out. Renegades had no frontline to really match up the frontline of Ace Gaming, and that's where it kind of fell through for them, because then, well, what's Celeste supposed to do? Celeste needs to be on the backline, needs to... Celeste can, when she gets dived on, can hold her ground on her own, but only to a certain point. When there's like 5 people diving on you, no chance. But that's why I think that Renegades, where they fell through in their team comp and maybe in their building, in terms of items, could have just gone for a bit more of a tankier comp. You only had Cruel up there on the front line, and I think they felt like in the last fight, I'm the only tanky person here. I need to dive in the front. They did go in a bit too deep without anyone else able to really support them there, and it fell through for Renegades. But we'll have to see what changes they decide to make into this next match.